Hey, good afternoon, peeps. Welcome to another episode, Let's Talk. And today I am happy to be joined by the Associate Dean at USC Gould School of Law, also faculty advisor for the Sports Law Society and faculty residence, Nickey or Dr. Nickey Woods. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. We've been talking about this for what, a couple months now?
Longer
And
than
so we're
that.
finally making it
It's all
happen. I'm
good.
very excited to be with you.
Yes, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since the season,
I
right? So
know it's good to see you too. Well, no, I do see you because I watch your podcast.
yay, yeah, and it's starting to grow, so I'm really happy about that. So I want to get into it with you though. So before we get into it, I want to do an icebreaker.
Okay.
And what's the one thing that people would not know about you that would surprise them?
I'm going to use the one that I always use, and that is I was a cheerleader in high school.
What?
Yeah. So back then, the league that I played in, the girls' team played on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The boys played on Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would play. Wednesdays and Fridays, I would cheer.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still remember any cheers? I,
One.
I want to hear it. Let's go. Let's go.
I should have said no. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, you know what? That was a wonderful period in my life. For those who wonder, yes, cheerleading is a sport. You have to be pretty athletic to do some of the things that we did. So yeah, I was a cheerleader. And whenever I say that, people are floored. People
Yeah.
are floored. Yeah.
That's awesome though. Cheerleading is hard. I watch the cheerleading competitions on ESPN when they have them, and I'm just like, how do they do that stuff?
You
And
want you want
all
to hear
the,
you want to hear a cool cheerleading story?
yeah, come on, come with it.
Okay. Because when you said you watched the competitions, it reminded me. So when I was a cheerleader, we did the summer cheer camp at UCLA. So I'm at this cheer. I mean, when I tell you there are hundreds of cheerleaders, we're just everywhere. But at the heart of who I am, I'm an athlete, basketball. I ran track at the time. So all these cheerleaders are out there on this big field right across from Pauley. I look over and Jackie Joyner and I'm freaking out. And all the other girls are like, what? What? They didn't get it. They didn't understand. They didn't know who she was. And I'm
Yeah,
fangirling because it's like Jackie Joyner. And at that time, track and field was as big in my life as basketball was.
yeah,
I was just like, my mind was blown. And I went over and we spoke, and it just really made my day. So that's my
yeah.
that's my cool cheerleading stories that I got to
That's a
Joyner
that's a
Kersee.
cool cheerleading story because I would have loved to meet Jackie Joyner Kersee because she was the woman back in the day. You know what
Indeed,
I mean?
indeed.
So you didn't go and get her, ask her for an autograph or anything, or
Not really. I mean, I've met a number of athletes where I've just never asked for an autograph. Just having the experience of having met them or shaking their hands good enough for me. So I didn't.
that reminds me of something. Before we get into it, do you
Yeah.
find yourself even at your age, because my age too, like I have to tell this story. The first time that I met Juju, right? And Juju 17 years old, right?
Okay.
And I go up to her and I was so excited to meet, like my heart was fluttering. I had butterflies and I couldn't figure out, I'm the adult here. You know what I mean? I'm the adult. And when I got up to her, the only thing I could think to say was, my son likes you a lot, so can I take a picture so I could send it to him? So
Um, did I fangirl the first time I met Juju? I don't think I did. I remember I went to one of the women's basketball workouts in the summer, and I ended up meeting the whole team, and this was her incoming year.
yeah,
There are a couple of people at this big age of mine that I would be starstruck by. Michael Jordan is at the top of that list.
yeah,
I was 23 because of him.
yeah,
I would say I'm typically not starstruck, but you never know. Like somebody could walk in my office today that I haven't even been thinking about, and I'll be completely starstruck. But I think when you work on a campus, and we had Caleb here at the same time as Bronny and Juju, and then there's some pretty high profile students that aren't athletes on our campus, so not really.
yeah. I met Caleb too, but I wasn't. It's something about basketball.
Yeah,
I love basketball. It drives me no matter what I'm doing. I could watch basketball all day on TV.
yeah,
I'm just a basketball junkie. So you get me around a team of girls or guys that are really good. I'm just a fan. Anyways, so let's talk about your UCLA years. You were a standout at UCLA back from 92 to 96. You played guard
Yeah.
and you got to play under 1 year under Billy Moore and the rest of your time under Kathy Oliver. But one other thing that we talked about was that Beth Burns actually recruited you, right?
She
When
did.
she was at San Diego State, I would imagine. Okay,
Yep.
so walk me through that and let's talk about your UCLA career.
Yeah, it's interesting because first of all, Beth Burns is a legend. If you have been attached to women's basketball in some capacity for the last 35 years, you can't help but have tremendous respect for who she is and what she's done for the game. And so I was recruited by her. My uncle played football at UCLA back in the day when I don't even think I had started school yet. So I come from, even though I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to college, I consider myself coming from a UCLA family because my uncle played there. And so when I was being recruited, obviously San Diego State, Beth Burns, what she was building there. But the opportunity to go to UCLA and earn that degree, that weighed out. I was recruited. I first started getting recruited in the ninth grade, and I had never been through the process before. First person in my family to play basketball. I actually got a letter from SC, never opened it. True story.
Why?
Because I come from a UCLA family.
Oh,
I
okay.
one uncle. It's like we're a UCLA family. And so I got the letter from USC, threw it away without opening it. And the rest is
Wow.
history, which is
Hater,
wild when you look
hater.
at my life. I just was like, this is like, we don't do USC in my family
Yeah.
because uncle. And so you look at the trajectory and the way the path my life has taken, it is wild to think about that moment and what could have happened had I just opened that letter. And maybe they would have never offered me, right?
Yeah.
They probably at that time sent out letters all the time. So I chose UCLA. I'm a bit of a nerd, and I knew I'd be able to get a good degree. And especially back then, the W didn't exist
Right.
when I went into college. And so I saw the opportunity. And obviously, my uncle, he was actually working in athletics at the time. So was it hard for me to choose UCLA? Absolutely not. I ended up playing with Natalie Williams, who was one of the best athletes.
Hmm.
What Natalie did, not just in basketball, but in volleyball, she's one of the most dynamic athletes I've ever been around. Played against Lisa Leslie, played against Tina Thompson. Tina is by far the best basketball. When people ask me, Tina Thompson, hands down, best basketball player I've ever competed against.
Yeah,
Um,
she's tough.
yeah, she's amazing. Glad to have a relationship with her now. And back then it was you get your degree, and you transition into the professional world. I ended up messing up my knee. I tore my ACL earlier, but I messed up my knee. And so it was career focused. And so the conversations that I have with athletes now, I think because of my own experiences, are always centered around this is great. You do this sport now, but what's next? And really be
Yeah.
thinking about whatever the next step is. So I feel blessed and fortunate to have earned a scholarship to an amazing institution. I catch some heat on this campus for it, but it's a part of me and my identity and my past, and I'm proud of it.
Now, your senior year or your last year, you were all Pac-10 because it wasn't the Pac-12 then. You were all Pac-10,
Yeah,
and your highest scoring games came against Arizona State and USC,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it puts you in the all 30 club at UCLA. But
yeah,
scoring that high against USC, and back then the rival, I mean, people don't understand the rivalry between UCLA and SC if you're not from LA.
yeah.
But what was that like, scoring a game high 33 points against SC?
It was amazing because we had lost to them repeatedly. Like I said, they had Lisa Leslie. One of my
Yeah.
worst nightmares is Lisa Leslie playing the top of a 1-2-2 zone. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Leslie, 6'5", playing the top of 1-2-2 zone. So SC had been getting the better of us. And so to have a
Did you
game
play point
that,
guard? Did
say
you
it
play
again?
point guard? Did you play
No, I
point
was a
guard?
two guard. I was a two
Okay.
guard.
Okay.
But to have a game of that magnitude and to beat your crosstown rival, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, even my son having played football here, um, and how intense he was into that rivalry and wanting to beat UCLA. He didn't care mom played there. So it was great. I have that game to look back on. It was amazing. I could play back in the day. And I think when I was an athlete, people might be surprised to hear this. I wasn't the most confident.
Mm.
And so I was very, I guess what you consider humble. But now I look back on it and I'm like, you know what, Nickey, you're pretty good. You could do some things out there. So
That's
it was wonderful.
Did they have when you talk about you weren't confident, did they have the level of psychology or mental health programs that they do now back then?
You know, not the level of counseling, but
Mhm.
we did have a sports psychologist who was amazing, Dr. Parham. And we actually spoke a couple years back, and he would meet with all the different teams. And some of the things that he spoke with us about in terms of building confidence, I still remember. And one of the things he would always say to us as athletes is say, believe, behave. You say it enough, you start to believe it, and then you start to behave that way. And
Yeah.
so, just little nuggets like that. We had Dr. P, but in terms of the level of counseling services that are available at the college level, not just within athletics, just across campus, those services have vastly increased for students and student athletes.
Yeah. Now I'm sitting here watching you talk and I'm noticing that you have your jersey
Yeah,
behind on the wall and
I
you're
sure do.
actually I think in your office at USC.
Yep,
And so we're talking about rivalries
yep.
and I'm like I'm not feeling it.
Listen,
So tell me I know that the students that you work with are okay, but do you get some heat for that jersey sometimes?
yes, I remember. So that jersey has been on my office wall. So I started at SC in 2021. I worked at UCLA the 5 years before that. So my office, my life is just always been, well, not always, but recently this chaotic blend of USC and UCLA. So I was at UCLA 2016 to 2021, and I've been at USC since 2021. And so I brought it. It was on the wall when I was over in Westwood. And I told my husband, I was like, you know what? I got to hang my things on the wall. And he was like, wait a minute. I said, no, no, no. It's going up. And my all Pac-10 plaque and this thing they give to everybody in their last year that's over there next to it. So I had a student my first year here came in my office. She said, oh, Dean Woods. I was like, what? She's like, that is such a bold choice. And I said, let this be a metaphor for how you should live your life. When you graduate from this law school, let that be a metaphor for you. But people accept it. I mean, they're fine with it. There are a surprisingly large number of Bruins on this campus. So I'm like, why do
Wow.
I get all the heat?
Well,
All the heat.
true story. My dad was a UCLA fan, and he came to live with me while he was sick,
Okay.
before he passed away.
Mm,
And he was a UCLA fan. And the day that he came with UCLA shorts and wanted to enter my house. And I understand that my pops was going through it and sick, but I told him, Pops, I love you and I want to take care of you, but them UCLA shorts ain't coming in my house.
no.
I did. And so and so he was like, "Oh, come on, baby, come on." I'm like, "Pops, I can't have UCLA in my house nowhere." And so I took his bag and I went in his
Yep.
bag and I got him some shorts and I took him in the garage and I said, "Change,"
And he
and
changed. And
he
he changed.
changed. hmm And the shorts went in the trash can.
But you know what? So that's not nice. But you know what's fascinating about parents? It's like nobody has given me a harder time than my mother. Okay. To this day, I'm a traitor. I'm still a traitor. How could I? And I have to remind my mom, I have a doctorate from USC. So I graduated from USC 10 years ago. So I've been a Trojan for quite some time. When
Yeah.
she finally embraced the Trojan life, and she'd wear the Trojan puffy jacket and the Trojan t-shirts. She finally embraced it when her grandbaby got into SC and started playing here. That's when she was okay with it. But before that, oh no, how could I do this? Something about
Yeah.
parents. I don't know. I don't get it. It's fine
My
though.
my family is split. My family, especially my on my dad's side, my cousins, we all lived in LA. We grew up in LA. I moved to the suburbs when I was in middle school, but I still have cousins that live out in LA, Martin Luther King and Crenshaw area, Stocker area.
Hmm.
And it's split. And that's to me, I'm like, how could it be a split house when you're closer to, University of South Central? It's right down the street. How
Yeah.
can any of you vote for UCLA? So whenever I go over there, we always argue, we always debate because I'm
Yeah.
like, we live next to USC, guys.
Right.
What are you doing? So
But Cece, I mean, think about my situation and how blessed I am to be attached to these two great institutions. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better situation. And it's so funny because when I was at UCLA and all those years right after, I mean, if you look in our photo album, I've got my son when he was a toddler and in elementary school, UCLA this, UCLA that. I mean, just decked out. You talk about parents brainwashing their kids, and God was like, nope, I've got a different plan. So I feel really fortunate to have a relationship with both universities. I'm still in touch with Corey and Pam and the
oh
staff
no.
there. So
Oh,
yeah,
I
I
can't
am.
believe you. Oh my gosh.
Corey was
Mm,
a coach. She was my grad assistant. You
I
know that.
mm, whatever.
She was my grad assistant. So
What led you to USC? That's what I wanted to ask you. So
yeah.
you at UCLA, what and you reached out to USC, correct?
Well, here's the deal. So I had no intention of leaving UCLA. When I was hired by them almost 10 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to retire from here. This is so great. I'm going back home. What a great story. And God is always like, if you want to, I'm going to make you laugh. You make these plans,
Yep.
and I have a different plan. And so I had no intention of leaving. And then the law school had created a new position. And I ended up sending it to my friend, Assistant Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So I sent it to my friend and I said, you should apply for this. Um, Maybe a week or two later, I get an email from one of those executive search firms. You'd be a really good fit for this position at USC. So I reach
Wow.
out to my friend and I say, hey, did you ever apply? He goes, no, I've just been too busy. Ironically, my friend who also worked at UCLA at the time, who since he's now at Cerritos College. So I go back in and look at the position and I said, we'll see. The rest is history. So I interviewed for that position during the pandemic. Everything was virtual. So I had a full day interview with law students and professors and deans and vice deans, and they offered me the position. And I started at USC in June 2021. And then about a year later, the previous dean of students was retiring. And so I was promoted to dean of students and associate dean. So now my title is I'm the dean of students for the JD program, and then also associate dean for student life and community engagement. And as you know, I work closely with our Sports Law Society law students, and it's just been an incredible couple of years. I never imagined I would love this university the way that I do. I was an adjunct at Ross Sierra a couple summers ago, so I taught a class in their doctoral program there, and I just love being here. Yeah, I couldn't ask for a better situation to be in. Our dean, Fernita Tolson, is wonderful, quite supportive of all the work that I do, bridging the gap between our school and athletics. So it's just been great.
Yeah, so that's a great segue into my next question. And
Yeah.
tell me about your involvement with the athletics program, specifically USC women's basketball, and how you mentor these young ladies
Yeah.
to be great.
So this was back when I had a Twitter. I've got rid of my Twitter last year. I received a DM from a young man who said, "You seem like somebody told me you're somebody that I should get to know." And so we ended up exchanging information and talking. And he said, I was a football player at USC. I've graduated and I feel lost. Like I don't know what my next step is going to be. And so I shared that conversation with my husband, Andy, who was also a college athlete. Go Huskies, UW, not UConn. And so I already knew his experience as a college athlete, but we sat one day and talked. And I said, tell me more about your experience when your playing days were over and you were transitioning into the real world. And he said,
Yeah.
I didn't have the level of support that I wish I had. And so I said, I was sitting and thinking about it. I said, I'm going to write a proposal and I'm going to send it over to USC Athletics. And I'm going to propose that we, as a law school, bring athletes in, not necessarily just to learn about the law, but maybe just to learn about different careers and things like that. So I send it to the previous athletic director, who was Mike Bone at the time, and he connects me with Denise Kwok and Monica Marita, who oversee, the professional development opportunities. And so Denise and Monica share, they're like, your timing is perfect. We've been wanting to partner with the law school. We already partnered with Annenberg and Marshall and other schools. And we have this summer professional development institute where our athletes are able to go into different schools on campus. So I'm like, of course, USC has the infrastructure. Of course, USC is doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
So about 3 summers ago, that was the first summer we partnered, and I brought in, literally, I went online and said, who are the best entertainment attorneys in LA? John Miggs pops up. He's Issa Rae's attorney. He's got an impressive client list, but Issa Rae is the one who most people will know. And I just cold called him, and he said, I'd be happy to come and talk to student athletes at USC.
Wow, that's great.
And so I brought in a couple of folks to talk to athletes about entertainment and sports law, because I figured that would be the most interesting. I brought in Colin Kaepernick's, one of his attorneys. I mean, it was just a great summer. And so the rest is history. We're not doing any sessions this summer, but for the past few summers we have. I ended up meeting the nerds from the Ivy League schools. They were in my sessions. And so I actually got to meet, Kenzie and Kayla and Caitlin before the season, because they were in my summer class. And so that's how I developed a relationship with them. And so the message that I give to athletes is, I'm just a resource for you. I consider myself to be a connector. I'm not an attorney. I make that very clear. But if they have questions about anything or an industry, I'm happy to connect them with whoever I think would be a good fit for them and somebody that can have a positive impact on their future.
What do you think in the Power Five,
Yeah.
the athletes, what are some of the challenges you think get overlooked?
That's a really good question. I think one of the biggest challenges at the Power Five level, for sure, is how siloed student athletes are from the rest of campus. And I don't think it's intentional. I don't think anybody is trying to keep athletes siloed, but their lives are so busy. Everything that they do it's obviously, we want to make sure our athletes stay eligible. This is at any institution. There's so many resources for athletes, but I think they're often concentrated within athletics. And so when it's time for these athletes, like the young man who reached out to me via Twitter, when it's time for them to pursue an internship or learn about grad schools, they haven't built up those relationships outside of athletics that I think can really set them up for their future. And not just athletes, though. I mean, I think universities are so siloed, each unit, each department. And so I think that becomes a challenge, because once your playing days are over and now it's time for you to decide if you want to apply for example, go to grad school, the letter that letter of recommendation that you need for that application is likely going to come from one of your professors. So building up those relationships, I think, in knowing that there's an entire village of people across campus, making that very apparent to athletes, I think that's one challenge. I think another, especially now with name, image, likeness and social media, is the emotional weight of performing at a high level and having an identity beyond what you can do on a court or in a pool or on the field. I think that's another big challenge. I think about what
I just want to ask you something. I mean, because
yeah.
when you talk about name, image, and likeness, and you said the big weight that they have,
Yeah.
what's your opinion on athletes now? Their mindset, they still want to do it for the game, or a percentage of them want to do it because they see the dollars and are not thinking about life after. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. You know, this is a tough one for me, because am I glad that athletes could be paid? Yes. Was I born in the wrong era? Yes.
Yes,
No.
definitely right.
I love that athletes are empowered. I mean, anytime, because to me, if you think about leadership qualities and the skills that we want young people to to learn that we think will benefit their futures. Empowerment is one of them, right? So I'm glad for that. Do I think it shifted the conversation around fit and student athletes being able to, before choose a university where I love this system, I love the way I play matches how this program operates, how this coach coaches. Do I think there are athletes out there that are now choosing universities, not necessarily based on fit, but on dollars? Of course. That comes with it, unfortunately, name, image, likeness. I think, I don't know if there will ever be a solution. I think we're going to continue to have these, because these are the kind of conversations the Sports Law Society has here at the law school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you
Navigate the whole
how do you
process?
navigate it? And then the
Yeah.
laws are always changing. So what's allowable today might not be allowable tomorrow, or what works here in California might not work in New York. So I certainly, when I have conversations related to NIL, I certainly do not position myself as a person who's an expert, because I'm not,
Right.
nor do I position myself as a person who has all the answers, because I don't.
Yeah.
I just try to be a person to, have welcome these kinds of conversations, because like I said, we have law students here that they want to represent athletes someday. They want to work in college athletics or professional sports. So I'm glad that I think this is a good problem to have. I'll say that, is to try to figure this out.
Is that one of the reoccurring conversations that you continuously have now? And besides that one, what are some of the reoccurring conversations that you see athletes and your law students wanting to talk with you about?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is identity. And I think for a lot of athletes, when we were doing these professional development institutes in the summer, I always led a session called the Pivot. And Ryan Clark, I'm not going to get sued for that. I know that's what his podcast is called. However, I had been leading these presentations called the Pivot, Life Outside of and Beyond College Athletics. And the whole point of that presentation was to encourage athletes to be thinking about, you're really great at your sport, you love your sport the same way I love my sport, but there's going to come a point in time when your identity is no longer going to be wrapped up in how good you are on the court or on the field. So what else do you love? What else are you good at? What else are you passionate about? Because that's probably going to be the thing that helps you to make a living when you're done. So I'm always trying to help athletes to not necessarily shift from training now and loving your sport now and maximizing your opportunity now, but also having in the back of your mind, this is temporary, and you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be thinking about the next step. So when athletes come to visit me at Gould, you can probably imagine which one came the most frequently to my office to visit. He shares my last name. That poor kid, gosh, Lee, this kind of conversation we're having, he has been hearing this his entire life, always be thinking about what's next. But that's really the conversation that I have with athletes is when they sit down with me, I try to be honest. I try to be present. I try to provide a perspective. And the main thing I try to do is offer a space where they don't feel like they have to perform. You just sit
Yeah.
there and relax. You don't have to talk about your sport if you don't want to. You don't have to talk about the pressures of being an athlete. I just try to provide a space where I see you beyond you as a basketball player, or you as a football player, or a soccer athlete. That's what I try to do, is just provide a space, not just for the student athletes, but my law students too. Like
Yeah.
there's students all throughout my office. And I love when student athletes and students come in and they say, oh, I love your Funko Pops. Or, oh, I love those pictures. And oh, I love this and that. I try to create an environment here where any student walking through the door feels like this is a safe space where they can just take a deep breath and take a load off.
Yeah, and I bet you after that 30-minute session or hour session is done, they feel relieved, or they might leave with more questions. Who knows,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
But switching gears,
Yeah.
um, let's talk a little bit about this USC team before we get into the next segment. And so you've seen, just like I have, change over the last 10 years
Yeah.
with the program. And what do you think some of the positive changes have been in the last, well, since Coach G has gotten to the program?
At the end of the day, and we could say, oh, no, no, it's not about that. I mean, when you are at an institution like this, winning matters. And she has brought in a culture of winning. I mean, back to back Elite Eights.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, and for me, and we're obviously talking about USC right now, but it's not lost on me that just the city of Los Angeles and women's basketball, what we've seen the past couple years from both schools is so gratifying. And
Yeah.
so to see this culture and to bring in somebody who has like NBA experience and what she did at Cal, because I mean, I've followed women's basketball for 30 plus years. So I was well aware of what she was doing at Cal.
I just want to I want to say something about the Cal thing.
Yeah,
People don't understand. Cal didn't have the money to recruit back then.
right.
So she built a program like she had Christina Nigwe. She had some good players, but
Yeah,
by far recruiting wasn't like it could be at one of the big Power Five schools. And so the way she built Cal, people don't understand how hard that was for her to do what she did at Cal with limited resources and talent. I just want to
yeah.
throw that in there.
Right. And it's again, I think you have people that are new fans to women's basketball and they talk about the game in a way that's clear. It's like you just started watching or you just started following women's basketball, right?
Yeah, yep.
Um, and so obviously the winning program and then to bring in Juju, I mean, in terms of recruiting, I don't think in terms of winning like the recruiting jackpot, it gets much bigger than bringing her in. And so um, just across campus, one thing that I've seen as a person who doesn't sit in athletics, hearing people genuinely invested and interested in women's basketball, people stopping me here in the hallway at the law school saying, Dean Woods, were you at the game? Did you see the game? Well, of course.
Yeah.
But to see students, faculty, and staff deeply invested in women's basketball is not something I ever thought I'd see in the city of Los Angeles. And here we are.
It's amazing, right? I mean, it's to me it's just amazing. It's like night and day. And I just sometimes I just get chills thinking about what USC looks like now compared to what it looked like, 10 years ago. It's just so I love it. So,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to get your opinion on the culture change and what you think of it. But you had the opportunity. We're going to go talk about UCLA. Sorry. You had the opportunity to go be on a set with Kiki Rice to shoot Up Rocks. Can you talk a little bit about that and how did
Yeah.
all that come together?
Yeah. So one of the last summer, I brought in a producer to talk to athletes during the Professional Development Institute, and we become friends. And so he's actually the one who brought Spencer Haywood to the law school. I moderated a discussion with Spencer Haywood, which is like one of my professional highlights to sit down with him. And so Mike, my producer friend, reached out and said, Up Rocks, I'm producing this segment for Up Rocks. It's this cool little like shot clock segment where we get an athlete or a celebrity and they're answering questions before this shot clock expires. And we'd love to have Kiki Rice. And we know you played at UCLA. This is why these relationships are important. This is why I tell athletes networking is important. Like, get out of your phone, meet people. So I
Yeah.
reached out to my former coach at UCLA and said, my producer friend would love to have Kiki Rice for this shoot. And they said, we got you. They contacted Kiki's agency, and the rest is history. And so, because I kind of connected the dots in terms of connecting my producer friend with UCLA, he invited me to the shoot and said, I know you're into women's sports, you're deeply invested in it. Come on to the set with us so you can just see you behind the scenes. It was so cool. And just to chat with her, she's a lovely young woman. I said, I played where you play now long before you were even born. I said, am I that old? I am. I really am. It was lovely and it was
I
awesome
know,
there.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so you also had the opportunity to gift Sweet July skin products to the USC women's basketball team. What is that and how did that come
Yeah.
about?
So when after the season and the women's team had made it to the tournament again, I care about these young women. And I was like, you know what? Like, I guess I'm like the auntie because like I've baked them peach cobbler, I've baked them banana pudding, I've baked them chocolate chip cookies. I'm kind
Oh
of
my
like the
God. Peach
mother.
cobbler?
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
you gotta make me some peach cobbler.
I'd
Okay,
be
go ahead.
happy to. And
Okay.
so I'm kind of like, I guess, the den mom where I really um want to do nice things for other people. And so I sent a DM. Sweet July Skin is it's a newer skincare company owned by Aisha Curry. You know who she's married to.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
figured I'm like, she's married to a basketball player. So I sent
Hmm.
them a message. I'm like, I am literally just an associate dean at USC. I really care about this team and their success. Would you be interested in like gifting them something? They just made it to the tournament. And so I didn't expect to hear anything back. That's kind of my personality. Like, I'm going to do an outreach. If you don't get back to me, I've wasted 2 minutes of my time. But guess what? You might get back to me. And they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
So they sent me a bunch of products and enough for every person on the team. And so I was able to go and gift these products and, you know, good luck in the tournament. It was fun.
That's awesome. But that's called networking, right? Because you never know, you know. I reach out to people all the time, you know.
It cost me, like I said, it cost me a few minutes of my time. The girls were able to get something nice out of it. And I think, you know, especially in the age of NIL, of course, I reached out to athletics and I
Yeah,
said, I'm trying to gift this product. And so I had to fill out the forms to make sure I was compliant with
right.
university
Compliant.
policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to do
Yeah.
something for those young women.
Now tell me, this is the part that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Walk me through the law society that you're involved with.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
USC Law Society. You're the advisor for the Sports Law Society.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what does that all entail?
Yeah. So in any law school, there are lots of different student organizations and different interest groups. So if you're a law student who's interested in becoming a sports agent or repping athletes in some way or working in the sports industry, you'll likely join the Sports Law Society. And so each of us in the law school, you know, deans and professors, all of us are called faculty advisors for these different groups. And so I've been faculty advisor for sports law going into my third year now. And so what I try to do is connect our law students who are very interested in a sports adjacent career with people in the industry. So this was, I believe, fall of 2023, we partnered with Clutch. And so I met Rich Paul at the Black Student Athlete Summit that USC hosted a couple summers ago. And so I met Rich and I was like, we got to figure out a way to get Clutch into the law school. And so we ended up doing an event and we partnered with, and this was so awesome. You'll love this. So I reached out to athletics because we were bringing in some agents and executives from Clutch to talk about their careers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I reached out to athletics and I was like, we could host it here, but why not host it over in athletics?
Yeah.
So we invited the men's and women's basketball teams and we invited a few other athletes. And athletics was like, well, since athletes are a part of this, just come over here and do it in Basher Lounge. Lindsay modified her entire practice schedule for the day to ensure her entire team was able to come to Basher Lounge and hear from Clutch. So you've got this big room full of Sports Law Society law students, women's basketball athletes, a handful of other athletes, just listening to one of our Sports Law Society students. She's since graduated from Gould. She moderated a panel. It happened to be all women, but it wasn't,
Wow.
let's talk about what it's like being a woman in the sports industry. These were
Yeah.
just really just superb women, superb people who happen to be women. And so they talked about their careers, what it's like, you know, being a VP of basketball for Clutch, what it's like being a sports agent. And we had all of our Sports Law Society students there. We had women's basketball players there. And so sports law is really just an opportunity to connect them to people. This past year, we had the general counsels for the Clippers and the Lakers come in to the law school and do a moderated panel to talk about their careers. What is it like being a lawyer, facilitating some really cool deals within sports? And
Yeah.
then invited the Sports Business Association from Marshall to come in and join us for that. So my mindset here at Gould, it's always about collaborating with other areas on campus and expanding these opportunities for as many students as possible. And that's
Yeah,
what I love doing that.
that's awesome. You
Yeah.
also got to travel, or you did travel. You traveled to UConn and you traveled to Paris with the women's team. Your son plays for USC football, correct?
He's done. He graduated. Well, he graduated last month and he's starting a master's program. You want to guess where? In the fall.
I don't want to know. It better
Gould.
be. Oh, really?
He's coming to the law school.
Okay, that's good. I thought you were going
Yeah.
to say UCLA, but
No,
okay,
no,
good.
no,
Okay,
no,
okay,
no. The way
okay.
you feel about UCLA is how
Yeah,
CJ feels about UCLA.
yeah. He played football, so I would think that he has no love for UCLA
No,
whatsoever.
no, no.
Yeah,
No, he was posting old basketball pictures of me at UCLA during like USC UCLA week. Like you're going down. I mean, he got all into it. Um, but yeah, he'll start a master's program at the law school this fall.
that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
how was your trip to Paris and Connecticut with the team?
Listen, amazing. Like I can't even describe. That was my first time to Paris. I've been to
Yeah,
France, never been to Paris. Just being able to go there and be an ambassador on behalf of our law school with all of the wonderful sports things that are happening in the law school was amazing. Um, and obviously, it was a double header, and so I was able to see UCLA play.
yeah,
It was amazing, and then the UConn game. Goodness, I was fortunate enough to, because like I told you, I'm the kind of person, I'll send an email to somebody. And if you get back to me, great. If you don't, you don't. So I sent an email to like their person who oversees operations at UConn. And I said, I played basketball way back in the day. We're coming out to UConn. I would love to get a tour of your facilities if you're open to it. They emailed me back and said, we'd love to give you a tour of UConn and our basketball facilities. So I've got all kinds of pictures in Gino Ariema's office. I was at
yeah,
Paige and Sarah Strong and all these girls doing shoot around. If you are a person who appreciates women's basketball and you are able to go to UConn and get that behind the scenes look at their facilities, you take advantage of it. And
yeah,
that's exactly what we did. And it was fantastic. And then obviously getting that huge win, and just JuJu in these big games, she just becomes something that is just, it's just incredible to see.
yeah.
Everybody just stepped up and it was just that was a remarkable win. And I'm privileged. I feel privileged and blessed that I was able to see it in person.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. I call her big game juju, but it's
Oh yeah.
interesting just with the USC team in general last year and the year before with all the talent that they have. What's funny is when I watch them against like not as good teams or not as good competitive teams as they are on the court, they look bored. It's almost like they thrive
On the
for
challenge.
somebody to come in and challenge them so they can be their best. Whether they win or lose is a whole nother story, but it's just like night and day when they in non-conference when they played these lower level teams, they
Yeah.
just look like, okay, let's get through the game. Let's play at 80% and let's get through the game and win. But against these other teams, UCLA, UConn, I mean,
Oh,
they became a whole different team. It's like they want that challenge, especially Juju. Juju wants to play the best of the best all the
you
time.
I'm gonna tell you what. I will say this without a doubt. One of the hardest things for me to do this past basketball season was go to Pauley Pavilion and not want to, and not because they sit all the women's basketball alumni in the same section at UCLA. So I am there surrounded by my sisters and played with, and women's basketball alumni from different generations. It was so hard to sit there and not cheer for her and her teammates because and people ask me that all the time. They're like, well, who are you going to cheer for? What are you going to wear? If I told you how many text messages, people are so invested in what Nickey Woods is wearing the week that those teams play each other. But and I have a relationship with the women here because this is where I work. I know
Yeah.
them, their families. So, when you have a relationship built up, these are the women that I support. It was incredibly difficult to sit there and not just, and you saw her, she was playing out of her mind.
Yeah.
We, and she wasn't the only one. So it was just like, that was hard.
I
But
bet.
man,
I
I mean,
bet.
yeah, that was hard. But the way she came out, both games here and at Pauley, I knew she hit that first three. I looked at Andy. I said, "You know what's about to happen, right? You
Yeah.
know what's going down."
If she hits her first three, it's over.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
over. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Because she's just gonna play lights out,
yeah,
you know? What are your thoughts on the continued growth here in LA for
yeah,
women's basketball and sports in general? Even our track team did well. All
yeah.
our, all of our USC women's teams
Doing
do
really
very
well.
well.
Yes. For me, it's both emotional and it's empowering to witness. When I played, we were grinding, we were working hard, but the visibility just wasn't there. We play in front of these small crowds. It's mostly family and
Yeah.
friends. So to be able to go to sold out games here in LA, both at Galen and at Pauley, I mean, it just blows my mind. And I get emotional when I think about it. I'm like, wow, this is a place like LA. There's always been hoopers here, right?
Yeah.
Those that aren't born and raised here, there have always been hoopers in LA, and so for the sport to finally get the recognition that it deserves, like I feel like I crawled so these young women could walk. Some are sprinting, which is great, but I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic, and I think you're right. Um, I think there's always been an interest, but now we're seeing the investment, which is continuing, I believe, to drive the interest in women's sports right here in LA. So I think it's wonderful.
You know what else that people don't seem to understand about the LA market? It's a huge market, right? It's a huge media market, but what
Yep.
people don't seem to understand, to be able to fill up Galen or Polly, but
Yes.
Galen, I want to stress Galen, with all the sports teams that we have here is just people don't understand the gravity of that because you talk about UConn, that they
Yeah.
have a good base, and you talk about Tennessee, Indiana, Iowa, but that's all they got. You know what I mean? There's
No,
no
they're not competing for
Yeah, they're
anything.
not competing for
Yes.
anything, and then here you got traffic. I mean, Galen's right in the middle of traffic at 5 o'clock, and people don't understand the gravity of how big
Yes.
this has gotten and how wonderful it is with everything else we got going on in LA.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
major difference, and nobody's talking about that. And I think we need to talk about that more because it's so impressive and it's so important for people to understand why these small schools, why their students, or the coliseums or arenas are packed all the time. They ain't got nothing else to do.
There's so much to choose from in LA, and not even just the sport. If you think about sports, I mean, you're right. There's so much to compete with here. Just take men's basketball, for example, or USC football and the
Soccer.
Coliseum, soccer, concerts,
Yeah.
art. There's so much going on in Los Angeles, which makes it even more impressive when you go to Galen and you
Hmm.
see people lined up. You see them
Yep.
wearing the jerseys. You see them hoping to get something signed. It really does speak to um, people are always going to be interested in talent, and people are always going to be interested in seeing people perform and do things at a high level. So I'm super excited about the Olympics coming in a few years.
Oh, yeah.
I hope we all, you know, take the bus and public transportation because the traffic's going to be a nightmare. But I'm so excited that the Olympics are coming back to LA at a time when we're seeing this surge and this growth and interest in women's basketball. Super excited about it.
And here's the thing about LA culture. LA culture, they like to watch winning programs. So I
Mm-hmm.
always say, if you win, the fans will come. It doesn't matter. And then when you have a player that's breaded in LA, that
Yes.
that means so much more as well. But besides that, the mentality of folks in LA, because of where everybody has to come from, people don't understand how big LA is either. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, it's huge. I live 35 minutes away from LA, and that could be like an hour and a half if I'm in traffic. People come from the Inland Empire, they come from Riverside, they come from um, Burbank, the Valley.
Everywhere.
That takes a while to get to Poly, to USC. But if
Yes.
you win, they will come because that's the mentality of LA. And
Mm,
so it's just amazing to see. But I just think that people need to talk about that more because we don't talk about it enough about the difference just in LA being LA and like a
yeah.
Iowa being Iowa or Indiana being Indiana or Yukon being Yukon.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
big
we're going to talk
difference.
about it. We're going to talk about it this fall at the law school. I'm in the process of putting together what I'm calling courtside conversations, where it's just a small intimate gathering of women and at the intersection of sports, media, and business, just coming together and talking about what this means for our city and this area to see this surge in interest in women's basketball. And I've got some commitments from some I'm obviously I'm not going to name them, but I've got some commitments from some pretty high profile women, and I'm super excited about it. I'm very excited about that.
I better get an invite. That's all I'm saying. Hey, and then not to be just to listen. I want to be there to listen. Um, look, that's we're running out of time, but
Yeah,
on closing thoughts,
yeah,
what would you say is the most one of the most important things that you can tell an athlete to be focusing on other than their athletic career while they're in college?
yeah. You know, get to know as many people as you can that don't have any interest in how good you are on the court or what you can do on a field or however you know much people are going to be impressed with your athletic ability. Try to build and develop key relationships with people who, if you stop playing today, they would still care about pouring into you and investing in you. That's what I would tell an athlete. And that's what I tell athletes all the time is, you know, get to know people. Networking is important. If you don't like to network, then find another word for it, but get to know people, um, and stay connected to the things that you enjoy or that light a fire in your belly that have nothing to do with your sport. Because
Hmm.
once the sport is over, and I probably said this earlier, once the sport is over, that's going to be the thing that sustains you after the sport is done, because you're going to get to a point in your life where nobody cares. Like you talked earlier, I had 33 points against USC. Nobody cares. Who still thinks about the 33 points I had against USC? Maybe me, if I have one of those dreams where I wake up and I'm like, oh, my knees were good and I was balling. Nobody cares about that anymore.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with people who see the value in you beyond what you can do as an athlete. Get to know as many people as you can, and you know that there are resources uh, all around that want to help you be successful and beyond your sport.
That's great advice. That's great advice. And I hope anybody that's listening takes that advice. And hey, Dr. Nickey, I
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on the pod. And
I appreciate you having me. We have to do this again.
yes, and I'm gonna
We'll
see you
talk about
soon.
something different.
Yeah, we could talk about food. I don't care, you know.
We'll talk about my consulting. That's like
Oh,
it's a story for a completely different day, but I think
okay.
it's relevant to the conversation that you had when you were talking about coaching and high IQ, high EQ coaching. So we'll talk about that maybe at some
Yes,
point in
ma'am.
the future.
Yes, ma'am. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Fight on.
Right on.